Welcome to Podcaster Toten. My name's Red.
I'm Matt.
Hello, I'm Tuck.
And it's Nabberzunter.
Again.
Again.
Yeah. And today
He's
we're going to talk
officially
about...
surrendered.
yeah, just give in. So today we're going to talk about, after that last discussion about Blackout, I decided to look more into the intel you get when being in the missions and found some pretty interesting ones. One we're going to focus on today has some numbers. The numbers from Black Ops 1. They were a big part of that game, like the Ascension codes that Mason would get in his head. So I'm going to start at the beginning of this one piece of intel. It's called Mason's Ladder, and it features Woods and Mason. So I would recommend watching the final cutscene of the specialist stories with Woods and Mason. Maybe that'll give you some context to this. But anyway, so it starts with Woods. He's reading an Ascension code, and it decodes to Savannah. And Savannah is Mason's granddaughter. Then the next line, Mason, he starts moaning the numbers alongside him, and he says, his sister. And Woods says, no, you're still in the box, Mason, her sister. Now, I know you guys had questions about that.
My main
Yes.
question was he talking about Savannah and is it you said the sister's name's Jessica, right? The one
Right.
who so is he correcting him because are they talking about that relationship? Like who are the sisters that were or the pairings that we
Right.
have in Black Ops that they could be?
Right, so it's like, yeah, it seems like throughout most of this that Woods is trying to convince Mason that they were in switched roles. So like in that
Who were in
cutscene,
special?
like Woods and Mason, that they're cooking. Because when he's talking about you're still in the box, he's talking about the box that Woods was in the beginning of the Black Ops 2 campaign. It's in Angola. That's where they rescued him. And then
Yeah, I forgot
yeah,
about that.
I
and
thought it
so
was
like in the
in
cutscene,
Vietnam.
I mean he might have been in a box too.
I
But,
don't Okay. Yeah, when they
but
were captured. I don't know, it's been so long. That's all right, but that makes more sense.
So you're still in the box. You've always been in the box. He's referring to. What does that even mean?
Where
He's
does it
trying to
say you've
he's
always
trying to
been in the box?
that's him in the cutscene.
Oh, okay.
Basically, he's trying to say you that you were always there. That was you, not me. But anyway, he's saying Mason was saying his sister, as in referring to Menendez's sister,
Right.
like trying to say Woods, you killed. This is what I think, at least, that like Woods, you killed his sister. But then he's like, no, Mason, listen, you were in the box, and then her sister, referring to Savannah, I guess.
Which ties into another entry later, right? Where Savannah accidentally says, she's about to say like, what is it, Josephina?
Right.
And then she corrects by saying Jessica. So
Right.
not sure the implication, but that there's sort of a parallel kind of thing going on right there.
Yeah, it's like
Let me
yeah.
let me
Go
just
ahead.
jump in here and say, guys, you for someone who's just tuned in here, I think we need some clarification as to where this is coming from because this is an oft forgotten part of Black Ops 4. Yeah, I don't even remember whether it's from Black Ops 3 or Black Ops 4 at this point. I mean, we're talking about the specialist mission. The specialist, what is it called?
Specialist
The
stories.
intel?
Yeah. And it's the intel you get at the end, right? It's like you just
Right.
listen to it's like there's a little like each sliver of intel has like a little name,
I think
and then when you listen to some audio recording or something.
yeah, I think it was 400 because I remember in Black Ops 3 they do the specialist, and then I think in 4 they bring back all the specialists and then start trying to develop it into, especially because they didn't have a campaign, they started
Right.
trying to develop the specialists into some sort of story. So yeah, I think this was 4, and then okay, right, you listen to the audio clips and then it gives you
Because Savannah's only in 4, I think.
Mhm. Right.
And
This is the first time
Woods,
she's been mentioned.
yeah, and Woods I don't think was mentioned in 3, or like in this manner. And then 3 I know had the terminals, so I think this all comes from 4. If you beat those specialist little mini missions.
Right. Okay. So that's where. So this is intel that you unlock as you complete those mini missions in the specialist area.
Right. And
Yeah.
there's no context in those missions really. It's just Woods teaching you how to play the game, really, how to use each specialist.
And zombies do show up.
Right. Zombies do show up.
I think a Blight Father too.
Yeah, I played that the other day.
Okay.
It's very weird. But yeah, not much context to that. Okay, so then the next line, Mason, he starts reading 2-1-14 archetype, and then Woods reads along with him. And then that 2-1-14 is part of the Ascension code, and it decodes to CIA. So CIA archetype. And then Woods responds to that saying, yeah, both of us. Mason, come back, focus. Where are you right now? And then this is where it gets really interesting. Mason says, oh, they're everywhere. They're everywhere, Woods. Woods, incoming. Woods, I need ammo. Woods, they're not human. They're not Hugh. And then Woods says, not human. That is the whole point. And he reads off an Ascension code. He says, courage, baby, profiles. You got this. So to explain what this means is when he says courage, baby, profiles, he's referring to a book called Profiles in Courage by JFK. And that's what people use to decode these codes. So that's like a hint to how to figure this out. But what the code itself means is, well, what it codes to is zombies.
Right. So,
Yeah.
right. Mason's saying CIA archetype. Woods is like, yeah, we both are. And then Mason, I guess, just starts going into some sort of, some sort of like
It's like a
PTSD episode or
So-
something. Yeah.
Was JFK the first archetype?
What? You want to go into that?
Because fine. Because if the at least understand.
Oh wait, no,
for
that's a
those
TED joke.
Yeah, but I mean, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if that's a thing.
I know.
Uh,
Okay, to explain what we mean, there's a quote from TED on Alpha Omega where he like offhandedly mentions a clone of JFK, and then he's like, "Please disregard that. You were not supposed to hear that," or something like that.
What?
So-
I never knew about that. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh,
and the
that's awesome.
archetypes are supposed to be like clones or some type of like backup of someone's consciousness or something like that. We're still not
Right.
entirely sure, but it's some type of clone. So I just find it interesting that JFK is also mentioned.
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know. It's-
Yeah, I can see that.
All right. So point is, Mason is having a flashback to somehow, him fighting zombies somewhere. Right. Basically.
Right, he says they're not human. Yeah, I just thought it was like what I assumed this was before the decryption, which was done by, or at least showed to me by Rich Killer. So I thank him for that. But I thought this was just like a PTSD. It's like, you know how they train soldiers to not see the enemy as a human, that he was seeing like the Viet Cong as not a human.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he's having a flashback.
right.
But this changes the whole perception of the whole thing, that they're zombies.
And again, in the same line, then we have the JFK thing, which
Right.
with 5 and everything, like it's a heavily charged zombies line.
All right. So then,
Yeah.
okay. So my next question. So it goes. So Woods is like not human. That is the whole point. Zombies. And Mason goes, they're not monsters. And Woods is, you see what they want you to see, man. Easier to kill. So like, what? You see what? Who wants you to see?
Maybe
Like who?
because this could be
Like
could
a
be
simulation?
they could be talking about, yeah, like a simulation, like Project Blackout. Maybe the zombies they're killing are not really zombies. I don't know. That would be
Yeah.
pretty dark, but it could be, yeah, because there's another intel thing where someone mentions how Blackout, what seems to be Blackout, it feels like a dream. And so maybe it's like he's seeing what's actually going on.
That could. Ooh. Right. He's on such a different mental wavelength at this point that he can see right through what Project Blackout is
Right.
doing.
It's almost like the programming backfired. He sees the background code.
Oh man, yeah, that is interesting though, right? All right, they're not monsters, which I guess goes back to Rad, what you and Hunter were talking about on zombies generally just being trap souls. That could be that. So let's sum up, I guess, real quick. The Woods Mason.
Yeah.
What do you take? What's your main takeaway, I guess, from this exchange in Blackout between, or I guess in the intel between Mason and Wood?
Well,
It's yeah, go ahead. I don't know.
first of all, I mean, it's the question of whether. I mean, I don't know. The first thing that came to mind to me was that the campaign and zombies is inevitably related. And we debate whether this is their original memories or. Oh my God!
Uh-oh.
It
Can
happened.
y'all hear that?
No.
No,
Okay, shoot. Sorry, guys.
we're leaving that in.
So
I thought it was just the sound of you being enlightened. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, I was like, I thought you had a realization.
No, I thought you saw like
No.
this the Treyarch sniper outside your window. I think take you out
Yeah.
for revealing the truth.
Well, okay, so in that case, allow me to carry on before they pull the trigger. Is that this argument that the campaign and zombies is not related, but it just inevitably always has been, because I mean, the first thing that Tack you were pointing to when we were talking earlier was 115 being on Wood's arm, but I don't think that's like even the most obvious thing. I mean, no one can deny that the vast amount of information in the terminal points to the fact that there were events that happened in the zombies timeline that happened at this sort of not an apex, but the opposite. The vertus? Would it be a vertus where the zombie story meets the campaign story, the real world, I suppose? And so, oh my God.
Just the laser dot sights back.
I'm sorry. I am absolutely bombing this.
A lot to think about. It really
I can't.
I understand.
Okay,
Yeah.
here's it. Baby Shark is playing very loudly in the background, and it wasn't happening
Drive
until
anybody mad.
just now.
Is that like the priming? It's like the numbers are in Baby Shark.
Oh yeah, you're getting
Yeah.
programmed with the numbers.
I don't know. I feel like I'm creating too much work for you. Okay, hard cut. Can I? I can't think.
No, we leave it in. We're all casual.
Okay.
Yep.
It's just friends
Okay,
talking.
so I think what happens here is this is the future of zombies and where it goes from here, because if you have this ether story end, the ether story is where the campaign separated from the zombie. Sorry, is where the zombie story separated from campaign. So if Treyarch decides to continue the zombie story and zombies as we know it, they can totally continue to do that within the zombies universe. And we saw it in Black Ops 3 with the nightmares. To bring that back, but like within Woods and Mason's experience, I think that's the obvious next move. And it's not the ether story. To say the ether story is over is absolutely still true. It's the real world story of zombies. And it would be no surprise, and it wouldn't be a retcon. It would be as real as anything we know.
Right. And I would add to that. Craig specifically said, well, okay, he said that Ether's ending, but then he went on to say, this is the last time you're going to see these characters, Ultimus, Primus, Victus. But it does not mean we're not going to see
These zombies.
these campaign characters in zombies in the Ether storyline.
Which, to continue my rant in that is that to say that we know that everything that Mason and Woods did and the reason why Woods has that tattoo. I mean, I don't think that's simply a nod to zombies or something. That's you can do Easter eggs in a game without putting a tattoo on one of the main character's arms. This is not a surprise at all. I think the Woods and Mason could have been involved in a Black Ops project relating to zombies and the results of the work of 935. I think that's obvious.
Is this another bees connection?
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that. But
Don't. I already had
that
one
one
right.
Well, one of the other things is that like thematically the things that we've seen in like the later installments of Black Ops pretty much mirror what has already happened in zombies. Like you look at like Corvus and if the archetypes are clones, I mean we have Maxis and Purnell and MK Alpha dealing with like transferring consciousness and merging with AI and cloning, and then you also have that present in the campaign. So like it just doesn't seem much of a stretch, especially if I like to think that the quote about MK Alpha and MK Ultra being sister projects is sort of relating to the campaign in Zombies, where Zombies is MK Alpha and the campaign is all about MK Ultra. So it would make sense that there's sort of overlap and bleeding between the two, because it just seems really weird that you have all these things that are the focal point of, even though Black Ops 4 didn't have a campaign, but the Blackout and the multiplayer specialist stories kind of take that place, that
Right.
thematically sound like it would be something that would be in Zombies anyway. And technically zombies, even though the timeline's kind of wonky, all those events predated that, like what Purnell did, what Maxis did. So it almost makes sense that like the modern Black Ops universe is following suit after like the failed projects from MK Alpha and stuff like that.
Now we could take it to the second conversation between Woods, Mason, and Reznov. If you want to kick her off, Rad.
So it's Woods talking to Reznov. He says, "Yeah, I brought him back using your fucking numbers." Reznov says, "My numbers." And he pauses. He says, "No longer." Woods says, "All right, he's in here. You ready?" Reznov says, "Da." Woods says, "Mason." Mason says, "Yeah, this better be goddamn good because you woke me up." Woods says, "Mason, you look like hammered shit." Mason says, "It's all in your mind, Woods." And then he pauses. He sees Reznov. He says, "Reznov. Oh, fuck, no." So I don't know if you guys caught this, but like, so the interaction Mason and Woods have, Mason says, "Yeah, this better be good because you woke me up." And Woods says, "Mason, you look like hammered shit." And Mason responds, "It's all in your mind, Woods." So those two quotes are like reversed.
Yeah, that's
When
completely
Mason
backwards.
sees Woods for the first time in Vietnam, he says, "Woods, you look like hammered shit." And then Woods says to Mason all the time, "It's all in your mind, Mason."
Wait, so in the Black Ops 1 campaign, he says it's all in your mind, Mason, when he says, like, the original campaign? Or, like, this is... This...
He says in Black Ops 2 to him, because there's a part where he, like, starts to go back into that mindset when he sees Kravchenko again alive.
Mm.
So that adds to the theory that, like, Woods is trying to convince Mason that they've switched places. Like, that he was there in the box in Angola. And that it was him who killed Raul's sister. And to what end, though, I don't know. I don't know what anyone's motivation is. A lot of people do stuff that's crazy. I don't know what the motivation is. Reznov, Menendez, Woods, I don't know.
Well, I guess if they are archetypes, it just implies that I guess it's probably the end game of the Savannah or someone else, right? Because I have no clue what any of this means.
It sounds, well, I was to say my first impression was it sounds like, so Woods says to Reznov, he's in here. What is he talking about? He's in where?
Okay, it's like, oh, Reznov and Woods are talking before they go into Mason's room. And he's like, okay, I brought him back, like, I made him lucid again, because before he just kept saying numbers. He was in that
right.
state. And he brought him back using Reznov's, like, method of brainwashing.
Okay.
And he's like, okay, you ready to reintroduce yourself to him?
Yeah.
Okay, so then...
have anything from that. Yeah, no, carry on, Tag.
Yeah, okay, cool. So then... Right, so he sees him, he's reintroducing themselves, and, Mason's like, "Reznov, oh, fuck, no." And so Woods is trying to calm him down, and so he goes, Mason, stop, he's real, he's right here. He made it out of Vorkuta, I want you to look at him. Mason, look at him. And Reznov tries to convince him, he goes, "It is me, comrade." And Mason goes, "Reznov? Frank, what the fuck?" And then, what's that next by Woods? Is that yeah AI or is that yeah Al?
Yeah, Al.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Al, he was
Arthur
the person.
Arlington?
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, honestly, though.
Yeah, he says, yeah, Al, he was the first. Then Mason says, the first what? Woods says, the first archetype. That ends that.
Al?
Yeah, who's Al?
Alex.
Just kind of like a...
yeah.
Al. Oh, duh.
Yeah, I was like, I know this has to be him, but why am I blanking on the first name? Yeah.
So the question, I think, ultimately between these two, and do we have more after this? Do we have more quotes? Savannah. Okay. So the question between all these bits of intel is, do they tie? Are they blackout oriented, or are they like looking forward to something, or were they purely related to blackout and there's nothing else? Because, I mean, if that's the case, then that's underwhelming. But if they flash forward to something, or they light forward something else, then yeah.
This one in particular, I don't think is related to Blackout so much as is related to how Reznov, like, what is Reznov's goal here? Because he's the first archetype, right? And we were talking before how Reznov, it seems like he was setting up something big outside of just convincing Mason to kill Kravchenko, Dragovich, and Steiner.
I think this is the perfect time for a little bit of a conspiracy, but with Reznov's end game, because I remember, like I mentioned this, like, you guys heard me say this 1,000 times earlier today, but there's that, what is it, the mixture, or no, it was a leak that they thought that Reznov, I think it was for either the campaign for Black Ops 3, that he was supposed to be like an AI or something like that, and the campaign was supposed to feature like time travel. Does anyone else remember that? Like, I know I was talking about that.
Right.
You had mentioned that before, yeah.
Okay,
Where did you say that came from?
It was a leak. I swear I read it on Reddit or something. It was years ago. I think it might have been for Black Ops 3. But it was just it was a weird thing that I just remember it because it was so vividly weird that it was saying, like, involving time travel and Reznov being related to an AI that was in the game. And then nothing ever came of it. And I was trying to find it today. And then there was actually a post on the CODS forum that came out, oh gosh, it was like a couple of years ago, by, I guess, a GFN21, just talking about Corvus and what Corvus is, and then linking Corvus to Reznov. Because I think they said that there's a line by, what's his face? Is it not Hendrix? Taylor. I guess there's an entry in Taylor's journal that translates to the line that Reznov gives to Mason, I guess, to kill, what is it, like Kravchenko and all, and those three. And that line is there. So it kind of reminded me that maybe that leak that Reznov is an AI or something like that wasn't that far off. And I think they said if you Google Corvus in Russia, it comes to St. Petersburg, where Reznov is born, where Reznov was born, and that's also the, I think, what is it? Taylor says Corvus is its name because that's where it was first created, which at least made me feel a little bit validated. But I almost wonder, kind of, if we tie it back to the other quotes about the Black Ops or the Blackout sites, I wonder if those were the sites you visit in Black Ops 3, because Black Ops 3 takes place after 4, and those were like the DNI facilities where people's like consciousness were being uploaded, and Corvus is like the amalgamation of like a bunch of different like consciousnesses that I don't know, there was some incident or whatever that then created Corvus. And I'm wondering if maybe those were the Blackout projects and the Blackout sites, and all the archetypes and everything is just imprinted into Blackout, and then Blackout eventually sort of becomes Corvus or whatever, like that, because it's all of everyone's consciousness who's linked to the DNI. I don't know. That's where I'm going.
I think
Suddenly had a flashback while you were talking, like, and you said this a few times tonight, but like I feel like I remember hearing that theory about him being an AI. Like, that's something from the early period of, was it Black Ops 4 or Black Ops? Yeah, I can't even remember. I get the two like blurred. Was it 4-3?
I vaguely remember a leak like that.
There was a lot of talk about Reznov before 3 because of the virals that were coming out, and we were like, "Is that Reznov? It sounds like Reznov," but it turned out to not be, and so there was this talk about him potentially being an AI.
And then wasn't there the quote of like Black Ops 1 is like man versus man, Black Ops 2 is like man versus, and then it's like, so I think maybe it could have just been a lucky guess and people pulling like popular strings together, but it just seems interesting that there's this association of Reznov and him being an AI, and then you have Corvus, and then now with this whole stuff about him being the first archetype, like, is that, maybe that wasn't so far off to begin with. That there maybe is some end game, and he's somehow connected to Corvus and the Blackout sites, or maybe we visit them in Black Ops 3, and because it does tie 3 and 4 together, because it also just seems weird because the prequel is much stranger than Black Ops 3, which you would think that there's sort of this progressive build up to, like, as technology and things move forward, it gets weirder and weirder. But like 3's cloning and all that stuff seems a little bit weirder, or 4's, whatever the archetypes are. It's like, how do we go from that then to something that happens that seems more tame with, like, your consciousness isn't a DNI, and then maybe it's like, maybe because this is the project that then leads into the storyline of 3, and then it's also there's with Woods, not Woods, with I forget the player character's name. I don't think they have a name in the Black Ops, the Call of Duty man, we'll call him, in Black Ops 3. But there's a similar thing with the ending where you say your name is Taylor, and I know there's like the theory that like the events of Black Ops 3's campaign are taken out of order, but at least taken at face value, it seems like there's some like mind wipe or something that's going on, and it's like eerily similar to sort of like what happened with Mason or what we're talking about right now. And then supposedly Taylor's journal or whatever, that because Taylor was influenced by Corvus, has a line directly from Reznov. Like it just seems like everything's like eerily connected in that manner. If that rambling makes any sense.
Yeah, it
It's
does.
so
It
much. Go ahead,
inevitably
Doctor.
tied into the chaos of what Black Ops 3 ended up being. And yeah, that's that. I'm just hoping that we can bring it to some. I mean, can you imagine the day that we come to a point where we go, oh, I can't believe you remember how confusing Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4 were until we had Black Ops 5? Like, I mean, we're just at that point. And actually, you could
Keeps
say, remember how
escalating.
confusing Black Ops 1 was, because there you have this diversion between the zombie storyline, like I was talking about earlier, and the campaign storyline, where it's like that's the hammer moment, to use Monty's phraseology, the
Well, I think
hammer
it's
moment.
Moon.
Oh, that's right. There's some debate as to when exactly the
Yeah.
hammer moment is, but it's Black Ops. So I guess some people would argue that it's Kino, or some people actually would technically argue that it's Doriza, I suppose. Which would
Yeah,
make it
I think
But
it's World of War. But that's a
so
different discussion.
which
Private
actually
Polanski
technically would almost
dies.
fall into Private Polanski. Yeah. Well, with the point at which it all splits is sometime after World War II. So whether it's a couple months afterwards, meaning in September or whatever, or in Black Ops itself. But all of this could come full circle in Black Ops 5 if they just tied it all together.
Right. And I think this is a good place to end this portion, this first part, because I think we have enough to talk about with the second part. But the second part, we might want to talk about how that could tie into the next game, because I do think it could.
Yeah. So we wanted to move to part 2.
Yeah. So that'll be the end of this episode. We'll see
Oh,
you
we're-
next time.